Hello and welcome to Productivity for Procrastinators. Now, this is a topic very close to my heart. I am a lifelong procrastinator, I don't mind saying. And I think it's time we get out of the shadows and just accept what we are and work with what we've got. So if you are also feeling like you procrastinate a lot in the work you do and how you do it, this will align with you today, which is why you're watching this. This is not about avoiding procrastination. It's not about saying we are lesser if we procrastinate or that we can't do things if we procrastinate. The procrastination is a very embedded psychological state that we possibly will never shed throughout our lives if we are a procrastinator. And that's okay. The point is to work to our strengths and come up with some tactics that work well for procrastinators, because there's a lot of talk around time management and selling and operating a business and doing all these things, which come from people who are generally not procrastinators. They get up, they jump out of bed at dawn, they hit the work hard, they exercise at 5 a.m. every day. They have a task list and they just boom, 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 get it done. If they've got some massive 10,000 word report, they're doing 1,000 words every few days. Like, they just don't get it. Yeah. And I get it. Procrastination is something that, we stand at the precipice of doing something wonderful and we sit there and go, something's holding me back and I'm not sure what. I'm super active every day. I'm industrious every day. And yet I still don't seem to get a lot of work done. So the first thing we're going to go through kind of first what procrastination is, some different types of procrastination and some ways and strategies to go through them. Now, this is going to be a bit of a death by PowerPoint today, but just bear with me because, this is a very simple overview. We're not going to go through any templates or activities or anything today. It's a simple webinar to give you the basics and get your brain churning and your motivation running to really consider and just take the first step, which is kind of accepting that maybe you are a procrastinator. And the second thing, which is, that's okay. How can I work around this? What can I do with it? Lots of people have different challenges. This might be yours. So who am I? So my name is Rhonwyn Learner because I love to learn, love to teach. I'm a trainer by trade. And Rhonwyn, like Bronwyn, but with no B. I'm so busy, it just buzzes away. So Rhonwyn Learner, and I've been working with startups for about 15 years and small business. At the moment, I do work for Business Station, which is the organisation who have brought you this wonderful webinar today. They run a program called Digital Solutions, which I'll get to in a minute. So my experience, I have a degree in behavioural science, I have a degree in marketing or commerce. And so I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, and I've studied this before. But since then, I've worked very closely with startups and small business in and around the government, the private sector. And one thing I'm very good at is being able to pick what a person's like and what motivates you and where you're at and what are you doing. So this is something I see a lot of. A lot of the coaching I do in the startup space is around the emotional journey of running a business. And it doesn't matter whether you're in your first year or your fifth year, you can still kind of be a little bit like a startup. You can be operating, in a way where you're still trying to figure it all out, still trying to find your path and find the best way of doing things. Because a lot of small business is kind of, iterations and testing and trying things and learning and doing it better. And if you're not on this path, if you're not testing and trying to improve as you go, possibly you're either doing a very predictable business model, and I applaud you for just making money and off you go, or it's a case of, you have a true entrepreneurial spirit and you really just want to make it the best thing it can be, and you're not going to quit until you get there. So one of the quotes I really love is from, I saw it in a movie. I don't know if it's actually a saying, but, the Best Marigold Hotel, where he says, everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it is not the end. And that is one of the mottos I live by with small business and startups, because here's the tip, here's the secret. If you just keep at it and always making yourself better, making your business better, fine-tuning your model, fine-tuning your marketing, you'll get to exactly where you want to be. Some people will happily tell you that you should quit it, give it up, go away, go get a job or do something else or do another business. And I'll tell you right now, there's lots of businesses I've worked with where they've had completely wacky left field ideas and they make them work. So the secret ingredient is committing to your business, but certainly, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, procrastination, these are all things that we have to overcome in our different ways or in our different paths, and that's perfectly fine. So this program that you're watching as part of today is called Digital Solutions. Digital Solutions is a program funded by the Australian government, and we at Business Station have the joy of delivering it through Queensland, Northern Territory and Western Australia. So if you are watching this webinar from outside those 3 states, I'll let you know that Digital Solution is in your state. It's just through a different provider. So if you want to email me, here's my email, Rhonwyn@businessstation.com.au. If you want to email me, I can let you know your provider in your actual state if you would like, because the value of the Digital Solutions program is it's not just these webinars and workshops, which we actually put them up for free because we feel like all businesses should benefit. But the real value is that you get up to 3 hours of one-to-one advisory as part of that $44 fee. So it's really a commitment fee. It doesn't pay for it doesn't really pay for anything. It's heavily subsidized by the Australian government. So you can help us by actually enrolling in the program if you haven't already. And every time you do an activity, make sure you do a survey, because all of that helps the Australian government realize that small businesses want help. They want programs, they want learning, they want the Australian government to support them. So by participating in the program and committing to do the 3 hours of mentoring and that 3 hours of advisory and all the workshops and webinars in this space, that's basically you telling them that, hey, I would like to have this kind of stuff in future. Are you eligible? So as I said, your ABN has to be registered in either Queensland, Western Australia, or Northern Territory. You have to be running a business for profit. It has to be a commercial business. If you are a not-for-profit, we have a teeny allocation, which is really just, they're trialing it at the moment. There's a pilot program going. So if you are a not-for-profit, please, again, email me, Rhonwyn@businessstation.com.au, and you can request some information about the not-for-profit option. And the other thing is you need to be a small business, so employing less than 20 full-time employees. So what is procrastination? It's a big fancy word that basically means we put stuff off, okay? Why do something today when we can do it tomorrow? That is the motto of the procrastinators. And it's kind of this thinking of, oh, there's almost more time. That's not a hard deadline. I can be a bit flexible on that. They're not really expecting it anytime soon. They said Thursday, but I'm sure they mean Friday. This is the kind of language that rattles around in a procrastinator's head. And even when we have the best intentions of getting things done on time, staged approach, a little bit every day, you know what? Procrastinators sort of go, I got time. It's fine. So we try to we put other things in the path instead. We do other activities instead and other tasks, and I kind of liken procrastination to, the scene in the movie where the person is scrambling away from the dinosaur or the monster coming to get them. And they're like throwing down shelves and throwing down boxes and all that to in the way before the monster gets to them. Like that's how I imagine procrastination. It's like, put everything in the path between me and the horrible thing, which is what I really should be doing right now. Sad but true. So it is the action of delaying or postponing something. And I want to point out something very, very important, which is there's really 2 sides of procrastination. There is involuntary procrastination, which I use that word very loosely. This one is the one we're going to cover today, which is kind of a negative style of procrastination. It's procrastination that really says, hey, I'd rather be doing anything except what I'm supposed to be doing right now. But there is a positive style of procrastination, which is what we might refer to as purposeful procrastination, where you basically look at your to-do list and go, I'm deliberately going to postpone doing this activity or task until tomorrow or next week or next month, because there are more higher priority things to do right now. Now, in my world, that's always been called time management, but nowadays it's called purposeful procrastination or something like that. So, yeah. So one will help you manage your time and your bottleneck at work. The other one will completely sink you if you let it. So why do we actually procrastinate? Not everyone's the same, but I believe there's 3 really strong areas of procrastination. The first one is emotional. So emotional is where I've got 10 things on my to-do list today. So say, for instance, I should be doing a proposal for some work, doing a report for my, franchisor, or a report for to review my website statistics or something like that. A catalog for next month's workshops, posting that event, and maybe changing those images on my website, which are really not essential, but they're just bothering me. Of those 5 things, one of them is going to get my attention because it's more pleasurable. Yeah, I'll clean up my website and fiddle around with my design and go into Canva and do some tiles, and it's pleasurable. It's pleasurable to get a little creative. It's pleasurable to have some fun with colors. It's pleasurable to come up with some witty taglines. It's pleasurable to spend an hour looking at quotes and find ones that I think are great for next month. That's pleasurable. On the other side of that coin is avoiding discomfort. Yeah, I know that doing the proposal, I'm going to have to really nail down. It's from scratch and they've got huge demands and I'm a little bit not sure what I'm doing with it. So I know it's going to be uncomfortable to kind of go through all that information and the additional research. Same with the reporting. Like, reporting's so boring. I just don't enjoy it. So when I do those tasks, those heavy admin tasks, because I'm a people person, so those heavy admin tasks are like discomfort to me. Whereas you might be the opposite. You might be quite a task-oriented person. So you might find that doing reports, doing proposals, you would do that every day of the week. But picking up the phone to call that client and let them know something bad happened with their job or something, or can I get that information? That's uncomfortable for you. So it's different for different people. But the idea of emotional procrastination is we naturally gravitate to tasks that are more pleasurable or have less discomfort because we want to have a comfortable emotional state or a pleasant emotional state. The second one is psychological. So psychological is where we're avoiding the results. We're avoiding the outcomes. We don't want to know what happens. We're kind of, a lot of that comes down to fear, which we'll go through. But also the other kind of psychological is when we operate in an environment that we have a lot of unknowns or lack of structure, or we're a little vague on what we're doing, or we're a little bit, we're working with different programs and we don't really know their full function, or we allow interruptions in our work all day long, which loses our focus. So when we lose our focus, it can take us quite a long time to zero back in on what we're supposed to be doing and how we're supposed to be doing it and when we're supposed to be doing it, which is right now. So every time you're interrupted, you come back to your computer or you come back to your work and go, right, what was I doing? Oh, this must be it over here. And you might actually end up working on a completely different task. Or you start flicking between tabs of research, or you just start scrolling through emails, or you start tweaking your task list or doing a bit more planning instead of doing. It's stuff like that, all right? So we're kind of doing things where we're kind of waiting for stuff to happen rather than making stuff happen, okay? That's psychological procrastination. And then the last one I feel is practical procrastination. So practical procrastination is where you literally just don't have the right processes, systems, time management tools, all that kind of stuff to clearly do what needs to be done. and therefore you get a bit lost in your work, and you kind of just, the same thing, you end up resorting to emotional psychological states where you do stuff that feels right to do or seems like you should do, and it's the totally wrong stuff that you should be doing in that moment. Okay, so a lot of that is to do with how you prioritize your work, what values you have in the way you do your work, or how you approach your work, or what is the most important in your life, but also, having a really clear direction. So we're going to go through each of these. Now, and like I said, this is a quick overview today. This is not a full course. so bear with me if we do go through things a little quicker. Okay, so emotional. I'm going to touch on emotional intelligence here, and there's a whole workshop on emotional intelligence. But when we are emotional, we have these states that come into not just our brains, but also our heart, our neurological system, and they can trigger us to have strong feelings and reactions to things, otherwise known as emotions. So emotions can be what we feel are positive emotions, like happiness, joy, love, excitement, pride, these kinds of things that when we have that emotion, we feel a bit of a buzz, a bit of a warmth, a bit of a fun, and it's, nice to be around, it's nice to share with people, that kind of emotion. Then we have emotions, which I use this word very loosely because negative emotions are also very valid emotions, and they're not things that we should bury down and never feel. So things like fear, anger, disappointment, resentment, frustration, sadness, right? These are all very, very important emotions as well. But they are ones that when they come into our life, we sort of need to but on both sides kind of need to be a little bit aware of our emotions at the time we have them. And this is called self-awareness. So emotional self-awareness is where we go, right, I'm feeling super happy right now. I'm humming to myself. I'm with a smile on my face. What am I doing? What is making me so happy right now? Okay, that's self-awareness. But also with self-awareness comes that idea of how we affecting those around us with our emotional state, and how are we affecting our environment with our emotional state. Okay, coming into like self-management, things like that. So if we have good self-control, good emotional regulation, good self-awareness for our emotions, and awareness of our triggers, we can then use that. We can start to act on that and decide, right, I recognize that when I do this, I have this emotional state, and then I have this negative consequence of I can't get my work done, right? So for example, I always say to my husband, if you're going to talk to me about something in the house, or we need to do something, or you want us to get, whatever, forward planning, things about, family, whatever, can you please bring it to me at like 5 o'clock? Never ever bring it to me at like 9 o'clock in the morning when I'm about to start my work. Because I often work from home, right? The bookshelves behind me on home. And the reason for that is because if that conversation turns into an emotionally charged conversation, which sometimes it can be, depending on what we're talking about, it was a close, intimate relationship, you feel the most emotion with people you are very close with. I know that, there are certain things that might trigger me to have very intense emotions. And then what happens is I can feel really demotivated to then focus on my work for, maybe even the whole day, depending on what it is or how I'm feeling, and also the weather and my diet and how many coffees I've had and water, whatever. Lots of things can actually affect your emotions. So, in terms of managing my emotions and managing how emotions affect my work, I've made a very firm rule. I'm like, if you want to talk to me about something to do with us or family or home life or whatever, good or bad, doesn't matter what it is, we're going to have that conversation at the end of my workday, not the start of my workday, so it doesn't affect me. Because even if it's a positive conversation where something great has come out from it, I can feel super excited and then I'm equally distracted, because then I'm like, great, let's buy a caravan, or let's go on a holiday, within border restrictions, or, buy a dog, whatever. And then I'm like, I'm thinking about a dog now. And then I'm going to go on YouTube and watch dog videos or find out what breeds are great. You get where I'm going with this, right? So when you have things that trigger your emotions, both, good and bad emotions, we need to figure out what makes us feel those and what is our reaction to those. And then we can kind of start to control our emotional reactivity. So emotional reactivity is when we react emotionally without and not in a voluntary way. So you said something and what you said doesn't matter, but my reaction is very strong frustration or something like that. Yeah, because what that person says doesn't matter. It's how you react to it. That's the point. So what we can do is we can figure out that awareness, what triggers it, and then we can start to choose, okay, how do I want to react to this? How do I, if something, and some of you might work with your partners, like your romantic partners might also be your business partners. So you might get this a lot in your workday, where you have a discussion about something which has turned into an argument or a debate, a heated debate, and then neither of you can get any work done, right? So you might put in some guides in place to go, right, we are going to do this in this way. You're going to say your bit. I'm going to say my bit. You're going to present your evidence to back up your argument. I'm going to present my evidence to back up my argument. And then we'll come up with some sort of point system and go with a logical decision. Sounds easy, doesn't it? You can do it though. So what are the sorts of triggers that people get? So trigger is like something, the trigger is a very easy word to understand. What triggers an emotion? So I feel helpless, smothered, overwhelmed, this is lack of control. So I quite often will be a procrastinator when I don't feel in control of my workflow. So if I feel like what I find is if I haven't really mapped out the day or what I'm doing or what I'm prioritizing, or I've got some stuff to do, and I run a number of businesses and I do this, so sometimes I can just feel really overwhelmed, and then I'm just like shut down, need some time out, breathing space. And actually what needs to happen is that I go, right, let's look at everything we have to do, let's prioritize, and we're going to go through some tactics to manage that more effectively than avoidance, which is what a lot of procrastination can be. It can be avoidance, emotional procrastination. There's also things around status anxiety, which was, I think it was coined by Jean de Botton. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He wrote a whole book about it, which is this idea of our self-worth is attached to our status in society. So we get a lot of psychological complexity around things that really should be quite simple. So if we take things to be quite black and white, and we're quite comfortable in our own situation and our own self-worth, we don't really look to this. But quite naturally, depending on how we've been brought up, what values have been instilled in us, and also the school system, which is can be very much around, you need a perfect mark. You cannot make mistakes. Every mistake you make is a negative. Every time you behave inappropriately is a negative. Every time you show too much excitement is a negative. If you're too loud, it's a negative. There's so many things that the school system, bless you, nothing, I really value education, but in terms of framing education, it is a kind of societal process to make a normality with people so that we can operate inside societal norms. And if you have been really drummed into that to be kind of this perfectionist kind of mentality, you can really struggle in a small business, because there's so much in a small business that's about failing fast and just giving it a go, and don't worry about the outcome and don't worry about the results. Okay, so it's, you know what I mean. So so it makes it very tricky. So how emotionally intelligent are you? There are some free tests you can try online. If you just Google free emotional intelligence test, or free EQ test. You should be able to find one. This is an example. So how do you overcome emotional procrastination? Okay, so if you're two sides of this, if you're avoiding discomfort, then the way to go is a few different ideas that I would share with you. So first one is force the fear first. What this means is to get your day started and don't let procrastination kick back and push back your whole to-do list for the day. Figure out the type of task that is the most uncomfortable, and you're going to force yourself to do that first. So for example, if I found calling people really uncomfortable, then I would probably open up Calendly, like a automated booking system that links to my calendar, so that if people want to book and talk to me, that time is at 9 a.m. every day. So at 9 a.m. every day, book into my calendar for a phone conversation. And what'll happen with that is, because I avoid picking up the phone and calling people, I'm forcing the fear first thing in the day, where I know at 9 o'clock, like it or not, comfortable or not, someone is going to be on the phone to me. Yeah. So if I just schedule in 9 o'clock, I'm going to call 5 people, I will procrastinate on it. But if I invite 5 people to call me at 9 o'clock, I'm forcing the fear and making sure I get it done to overcome it for the rest of the day. So then the rest of the day, I'm like, I've already achieved it. I'm totally over it. We're ready to go on with the rest. Yeah. Similar to that is Eat That Frog, which is you can get a little book by Brian Tracy, Eat That Frog. And he's done a lot of work in the space. Eat That Frog has a few different things, and the ABCDE method is in that too, which we'll talk about in a bit. But Eat That Frog is a principle where it's a similar thing, where it's like, if calling people is the worst, then you are going to call 5 people before you even start the day. And you're going to set a timeline on it, like a hard deadline, and go, right, before 10 o'clock, I have to have called 5 people. Whether they pick up the phone is another question. You can do that, call 10 people and nobody picks up, but then they're going to have to call you back. But it could be reporting. What I will say is that in terms of running your business, there's a bit we're going to go through later in practicality, which is we're going to go through this very quickly. Doing the first things first, which is Stephen Covey, or most important but not urgent things first. The idea around all this kind of stuff is to go, you know what? Setting up my social media for the month might not be urgent, but it is important, because perhaps social media is one of my bread and butter marketing strategies. And if I don't set it up for the whole month, I'm going to struggle to do it every day. It won't get done. It's never going to happen. So I'm going to use my scheduler, and I'm going to just do it first thing of the day, create some social media and get it done. Or it could be developing a new program. So I do online programs, I do, startup programs, training programs. And I know that if I don't, especially events are the big one. My goodness, you procrastinate on listing an event, you're pretty screwed, because excuse my frankness. But say, I want to do an event at the end of November. Well, I need 4 to 6 weeks lead time. I need, and that's non-negotiable. If I don't have at least 6, if I don't forward date and list it and open up registrations and enrollments at least 6 weeks before the deadline, what happens is I don't actually have enough practical time to reach enough people to fill a workshop. So then what happens is I can go, it's basically a half-assed attempt. It's 2 weeks out, I've listed it, I've put it up, and I'm hoping and praying people are going to come, and they don't, and then I've got nothing to show for it. So I may as well have not bothered, right? So Eat That Frog, things that need to be done, perhaps are not very urgent, but they are important for your business. Get it done. The 100 rule basically means whatever you hate doing, do it 100 times in a row. Simple as that. You hate calling people, make 100 calls in a row. If you hate doing reports, if you hate doing templates, if you hate writing documents, if you hate doing social media tiles, if you hate recording videos for social media or whatever. Do it 100 times. And by that, you won't even care. Okay. And then, of course, simple but tried and true affirmations. So simple, positive statements to remind you that this is a good thing and I should do it. So I might say, I love calling people because I love helping people. Or I love listing my workshops because then I'm allowing people to get my help, or it can be really simple, like, you've totally got this, just get it done. Or this is my big fat frog, you're going to eat it right. Okay. Affirmations is you can make it up, any kind of positive statement to get you in the right mindset to just do it. Submitting to pleasure is the opposite. So if you are just like, I'd rather do Canva stuff or talk to people rather than writing stuff or whatever, like, feel free to adjust your workflow to match that as much as you can. But the reality is you might just have things that you need to do because a client's expecting or whatever, and you're avoiding it. I've got a couple of those now. And you say, oh yeah, I'll get that contact for you. And then I'm like, oh, I haven't spoken to that contact in ages. So there's going to be a whole conversation. That's going to be an hour chat just to get that in. So I avoid it. I will get it done. So use pleasurable pursuits as a reward. So instead of saying, I'll do Canva before I do that, you say, right, I'll do that, and then I get to do some Canva. Or I'll do that, and then I get to go get a nice fluffy cappuccino or whatever it is. Task lockdown. You're all familiar with this word. Task lockdown means if it's a computer task, for example, I grab a drink, I sit at my computer, and I literally do not remove my bum from my chair or check any emails or do any other task, or literally zero, locked out until I finish this task. That's task lockdown. So you literally sit down and start the task you do the task from start to finish without permitting anything. You do not pee, you do not get tea, you do not pat your dog, you do not check an email, you don't answer a phone call, zero, nothing, complete lockdown. Okay. Now, if and that's really because, doing stuff gets momentum. So if you can get started on it, it might be a slow burn to get started, but then once it is started, you'll get into it and it won't be as bad as you think. Time tracker on non-essentials. So there's apps you can get on your phone. If you just go into the Play Store or the iTunes or whatever, and you go task tracker or time tracker or distraction, tracker or whatever, you'll find apps that it's going to pop up a little alert, say you've been on Facebook for 45 minutes. Is this what you're supposed to be doing? Or you can get time trackers that say that you can, even in if you have like an organization that's Microsoft, the professional Microsoft organization with Teams and all the suite and everything, there's actually a productivity program in the back of that where you can look at what your calendar is doing. So as long as you put everything in your calendar, it'll say, well, you had 20% meetings, 30% phone calls, and 10% of who knows what, and 20% of scratching your bum, whatever. Okay. Hopefully Microsoft doesn't capture that much. And then create alternative creative and emotional outlets. So quite often we will seek out pleasure because we simply don't have enough balance in our life. Sad but true. If you don't do any exercise, if you don't do any hobbies, if you don't go anywhere nice, if you don't have food meals out, if you don't enjoy entertainment, if you don't do music and movies and books and cultural enrichment, it will come out as procrastination. Yeah, it'll be like seeping out of your pores, where your brain and your heart goes, I haven't done anything fun this week. I'm craving a break. So I'm going to force it on you by basically distracting you towards pleasurable things rather than what you're supposed to be doing. It's very hard. It's a very strong influence. So make sure you actually have a work-life balance and you're doing fun things, or else, this is how it'll come out. Psychological. Okay, we've got quite a bit to go, so we're going to keep going. All right, so what is holding you back? We've talked a little bit about this. Fear of failure. So I'm scared that it might completely explode and I fall on my face. fear of success is very similar, but a bit the opposite. So, and I've experienced this a little bit sometimes. I don't really fear failure. If I don't get something right, I'm like, oh, well. But sometimes I have a little fear of success. I'm like, okay, what if I did go big? What if I went national? What if I, really got like 100 clients next week for 20,000 a month? I'm absolutely going great guns. There's a weight of responsibility and obligation that goes with that. Like, oh my God, like, what does it look like to be successful? And it maybe I become a public figure then, and then people are going to be watching me all the time, and I'm going to be, and that's public, goes into public scrutiny, like, good or bad, like people are going to be watching me all the time, things like that. So all these kinds of things can be a sort of fear, and fear leads us to avoidance. Also unsupportive relationships. So if psychologically you have someone in the background saying it's not going to work, you're not going to do that, you're not doing well enough, that'll never happen, you're talking crazy right now, you really, your head's in the cloud, you're dreaming. If these statements sound familiar to you, or the most subtle manipulative one, which is, I think it would be better for the both of us if you could give this away now. I've had students say that to me, where basically collectively with their partner, they have mutually agreed that they would stop running their business, even though it was only their business. And it really wasn't any kind of hindrance to the other person. The other person, quite often what will happen is the other person is scared for them. Like the other person is scared of their potential failure. The other person is scared of their potential success. The other person is scared of, the time taken away from their relationship or family or other pursuits, or the partner is scared of the loss of income potentially. So there's no faith in the business model. This can happen quite a lot. So there's some people out there will go, oh, just surround yourself with like-minded people who support what you do. Well, I'm sorry, but it doesn't work like that. You marry, your family is who your family is. You don't stop talking to your whole family because they don't really believe in your business. It's kind of, you know what I mean? I mean, if it was very aggressive, then yeah, probably just leave it. But, have some space, some selective space. But the reality is that this is just something that you got to work around. And the other thing is being unsure of the unknowns. So you don't really know what's going to happen. So you're a bit not sure if you should go ahead. Okay, so how do we, so with unsupportive relationships, what I really want to say is, really just got to forge ahead and keep practicing your craft, and every action you take in your business will lead to more confidence in your business. So you can't check what your best kind of customer is unless you have a range of customers. You can't market to your ideal customer until you've tried to serve a few customers, right? So action breeds confidence, and action breeds more action. If you sit waiting and avoiding, building your business because people are unsupportive, it's only going to get worse as they see you not doing anything, right? So you can kind of turn that around and go, kind of, I want to prove them wrong. You can take that mentality, not in a nasty way, but it's a position of empowerment where you say, I'm doing this regardless of what you have to say about it, and I know that I can do this. Now you're going to have moments of doubt. You just got to roll with it and keep going with it, and don't make any big decisions when you don't feel good. What controls your time? So the other part of psychological is reactive. So do you just wait for things to happen? Do you feel confused when there's not much structure? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so when you're in a job, quite often it's like, okay, this is your job. This is how you do it. This is when you do it. This is who you report to. These are the programs you use. There's a lot of structure in an organization that's been existing for many, many years, and you slide into a job. When you're a small business, especially when you create yourself, you have to create that structure. So you can do that. You can create your own job role, and those for people you want to hire in future. You can create flow charts of how processes work and follow it. You can create videos of, screen capturing what you do, like when you fix your website or when you do a program or a proposal or something, so you can come back and remind yourself how it's done. Okay, there's lots of things that can give you a bit more structure and process. Do you need to please others? Which kind of leads on to the next one of, can you say no to non-essential requests? So people say, hey, can you do that? You go, well, it's not really what I do for my business, but yeah, sure, I can do that. That's a no. Okay. So unless you consistently get people, you know, asking you for something over and over and over again, which would then trigger you to go, oh, maybe this is something I should provide because lots of people want it. There's a need there. Otherwise, if it's just, especially if it's, when I say non-essential requests, it's like, so quite often I might get businesses say, hey, can you help me with this? And then I go, well, I can, but that's very, you know, in my brain, I'm like, well, it's a lot of time. And, you know, it's not really what I do. So it's going to be slow, you know, but my want to help people, my desire to help people is stronger than my value to prioritize my business. So quite often I'll say yes to those requests, which I don't get paid. I'm helping someone, you know, and it's a huge drain on my time and mental state because I'm just trying to help them. And theoretically, that's what I do for my business though. So really I should be going back and saying, yes, I will do that, but for this fee. So it's lots of little things as well, which can eat up your time and means you're putting off what you really should be doing. And then thinking about what motivates your choices. So like I said then, if I had a choice between doing a task for someone else and doing a task which I know is going to help my business, the procrastinator in me, but equally the desire to want to help other people and please other people, I will do the other thing rather than help my own business. It's totally backwards. But this is what you deal with. So you have to take a bit of a journey to realize if you're doing that and start to go, you know what? I want to help you, except I'm unable to help you. It's a statement you've got to learn. So how do you overcome psychological procrastination? Well, if you're avoiding outcomes, then you just got to take action. Understand failure is absolutely expected in our realm of small business, and that is totally okay. So be comfortable with failure. Understand and sit down and brainstorm what is the result if you don't take action. So they use this a lot in sales. Like, if you don't take action, what will happen? You should do our course or our product or service, whatever. But the reality is, you know, every choice you make has a result. So if you try something and it doesn't work, you will have a learning lesson from that, and you can try again in a better way. And people will see you trying, and in a good way, they'll go, right, Rhonwyn does this. I might have an opportunity for Rhonwyn. So even though that webinar was not perfect or whatever, I know she does webinars. Or even though I didn't see the emotional intelligence workshop, I know she does emotional intelligence. Therefore, I will hire her to go do emotional intelligence with my people, right? So if you don't take action, nothing comes of it. So the result of inaction is kind of zero, but it can also go into negative. So if you don't take action, that can also result in a negative result. So you might be spending money on starting a business, but because you're not taking action, you're financially sliding backwards, and it makes you feel like a failure. So then you're feeling bad about it, you're feeling guilty about it, and you're working on your business day and night because you're feeling guilty about it, and you don't take any fun. So now you've got no fun in your life. So you're procrastinating to try and do pleasurable things because your brain's trying to force fun back into your life. It builds and it builds and it builds. So just take action. And of course, building our knowledge. So if you're not sure what outcomes are going to be, having more knowledge and just doing like this, doing more learning, doing more workshops, learning processes makes every action easier to take because you understand that process much better. And that because we often avoid doing things if we're a little bit unsure of how to do it. Yeah, you feel me? It happens a lot. I don't know how to do Facebook marketing, therefore I'm just going to avoid it. Well, or you could go get some knowledge about it and have a go. So reactive versus proactive, turn off all your notification alerts. Yep, zero. Like every time I get a new program, it's like pop, pop, pop. We started using Asana, and Asana sends it to my email, and it sends it to my phone, and it sends it to my desktop, and I'm just like, like just pop, pop, pop all day long with stuff I don't need to do then and there, right? So what happens is when you have heaps of notifications, it turns it into a reactive state of mind, and you sit in that state of mind, and you stay in that state of mind, and then you simply just wait for stuff because stuff keeps popping up all the time. And you'll know if you're doing this because you'll start just going between programs and workshops and fumbling around and not really sure what you're doing. Okay, so the way to be proactive is you set tasks like a boss. You say, Rhonwyn, you are my worker, and tomorrow you will be doing this. And if you don't, there's big, bad consequences. I'm going to fire you. Yeah, the boss is a little easy on it. And then the next day you look at your task list and go, right, the boss has set this for me, and I'm going to follow this task list as if I were an employee. Yeah, there's a big mental psychological transition between employee and sole trader. And the difference is, as an employee, psychologically, you know someone's got your back. And everything you do, it's kind of almost validated by just being with the organization, where they go, yeah, you could run a webinar, no problem. But as a sole trader, we go, oh, could I run a webinar? Yes, you can. Just do it. So if you set tasks like a boss, and then pick up your task list as if it was from a boss and follow it like an employee, knowing that this is what you need to do today, hopefully the procrastination panic monster will come out and go, right, shit, I need to do this today. You just get it done. Also, just that awareness of what am I doing right now? It's a very simple question to ask yourself. What am I doing right now? Practical. We're going to do this very fast. How do you manage your time? All right. So if your time is literally your life, it's an absolute non-refundable, non-renewable resource that you have. What tools and processes and programs do you have to help you, right? So if you act like your programs, your automation programs especially, they're like staff members. Yeah. So I can hire a staff member to click that email and send it every person, or I can automate it and get it done. Now, every staff member or every program you have removes another non-essential activity from the list of responsibilities you have. This is super, super important, because if we are weighed down by our list of responsibilities, we can feel overwhelmed, we can avoid it, we can be like, oh, I can't even face it. So every time you steal time from your work to actually set up an automation, or to hire a VA, or go through a task list with a VA, that sets you up for success to alleviate that heavy burden of responsibility. Okay. So practical procrastination is very much getting your time back. So think about your priorities versus your values. So what is your values fit? So if you value fun and personal connection and talking and things like that, then you need to make sure that you have time to do these in your workflow and it's part of your essential things. But to make sure that the other activities and things that don't fit in with those high value, personal value things still get time allocated to them. Okay. Do first things first. That's the Stephen Covey way, which says, hey, if you've said this is the highest priority for your business, then you do that first. No excuses. Just get it done first. That's it. Do a task lockdown if you have to, right? But get it done. Urgent versus important. So what is it that is you need to do? Firstly, that's the most urgent and the most important. There's a whole matrix on that. This stuff I'm going through very quickly because this is like time management course 101, right? There's heaps of stuff you can investigate about this. Triage System is the red, amber, green emergency room system, where it's kind of like, if I have a bottleneck of urgent and important things, they all need to get done now, they're all equally important. Triage looks at consequences. So red means super, super high consequences and all bad or all good. So this is a red light, and we need to do that in the first batch. Orange or amber is the you know what, it is obviously it's still urgent and important, but the consequences of this are not as much as the red group. And then green is, you know what, if I get to it, great. If I don't, I'm just going to have to live with it. Okay. ABCDE method is a way of getting your to-do list and allocating it by priority. So A is the most urgent, important stuff. B is, trying to think. It's been a little while. So B is like, yes, it's important but not urgent. C is like, yep, I can do that kind of later. So it's like do now, do tomorrow, do much later. D is like delegate it to someone else. And E is I don't even know why it's here. We're just going to exit it from the list, right? So, and that's something you need to be comfortable with. You need to be comfortable to go back to your list and go, you know what, this has been on my list for 2 months. Cross it out. Obviously, it's not that important. And if it is, as a procrastinator, you might go, right, then this is going into task lockdown and we're doing it right now. Overestimate your time. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down and gone, oh, this will take 5 minutes. And then I'm there 3 hours later. Okay. And it could be like installing a new program or tweaking something on my website. And the reason it takes so long is either I underestimate how long it would take. I especially get this in client requests where I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just throw that together and send it to you. Like, oh, a budget template or a, package, some ideas for packages or something. And then I'm there, I think, oh, that'll take like 10 minutes. I already know it. I've already got it in my head, 10 minutes. And I'm there for like an hour. And sometimes as a not really valuing my time and urgency of things on the list, I might spend 40 minutes, I might spend 20 minutes doing something, doing it, the content, and then another 20, 40 minutes formatting it. Don't know why. Creativity, probably. Unclear direction. So if you don't know where you're going, you don't know what task you should be doing. Very, very basic concept, okay? Have a mission statement and a vision statement for your business. Vision statement says, this is where I want to be in the future. Mission is, this is how I do it today. Then from there, you can create some business strategies to help move you forward of, right, we're going to connect and do this partnership. We're going to do this kind of promotional campaign. We're going to give this kind of packages and promote this flagship product this year, right? Strategies. Then there you're going to have some short-term goals. So 90 days is a good kind of action plan to be right. In the next 3 months, this is what we're going to achieve. And then from there, you create daily action lists. So not to-do lists. To-do lists implies in the future, procrastinators, we don't do to-do lists. We do action lists. It's doing now lists. I am doing it lists. Okay. And from your list, you want to pick a top one, which is, this is the non-negotiable for today. And then a general top 3. So that's what your main focus in. And then everything else can come after that. Okay. And also know your limits, right? So if you set goals for yourself, which are totally unrealistic, you're going to really suffer. Okay, that's it for today. That's all we're going to go through for procrastination. Again, this is part of the Digital Solutions program. So I'd really love you to come on board if you haven't already. It's only $44, seriously. I spend more than that on my mobile, I think. So, if you're really struggling with payment, do even just get in contact anyway, and we'll have a discussion. But certainly do consider it, and the criteria for it, which is very simple. And if you want to have me as your first one-to-one, I would be very honored to do that with you, to go through what strategies and marketing or operations you're doing, business strategies. And you do that by going to businessstation.link/Rhonwyn. That's it from me for today. Good luck with your business and good luck with your procrastination. Get in touch and let me know how you went with this. I'd really love to know if you employed some of the tactics and how they're going for you. All right, that's it for me. Bye for now.